I went to college while working full time. So I pretty much went to college at night. And I remember just being like, oh man, I can't wait for the day that I like graduate or and then I don't have to do all this. And then whenever I did graduate, I was like, wow, this is crazy. Like you can like do things as a normal person. If you have like if you work a 9 to 5 and don't go to school at night and have weekends off, it's like, wow, no wonder people have hobbies and stuff like that. Because I used to think like, how do people just like go fishing and get boats and stuff? And I was like, oh, it only doesn't make sense for me because I'm basically doing two full-time jobs and going to school. So it
Well,
was a relief to just like, oh, but the point I was gonna say is like at the same time, I felt like I always thought that I was like because it was like I used school as an excuse not to finish like screenplays and stuff like that or writing stuff. And I was always like, man, when I finally graduate, I can get all this stuff done. But then I found out that once I did have the actual time to write, I didn't really get much written. It was like whenever I had to study and take tests and stuff, and I'd spend my time to do these things, then all of a sudden it was like my brain that's when I had all the best ideas. It was like I had to be like in the act of like severe, like full functioning brain before like ideas would pop in my head. It was like that's when suddenly the it was like you needed to be in that mode to, and then it would be like I'd be studying and writing in my head at the same time. And I just didn't get that same kind of like inspiration whenever I finally had the free time. Then all of a sudden it was just like, oh, well, now I'm at my computer and I have all the time in the world and the ideas aren't coming. It's like you need to be doing something. And that's where I heard like a lot of people, other writers were saying that that's why they go for walks and their daily activities of writing is thinking while they are doing, marathons or something like that or
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, I think most of the stuff that I think about is when I'm driving. I'll just drive somewhere and that's where most of my stories come up. And then when I get home, it's like, okay, what were we talking about? So what were we thinking about? So yeah, I totally get that.
There probably is some kind of scientific study or something that we can look up that like shows what that's called, where it's like the act of sort of being in using your I know that like for example one study said that they gave this they gave a series of test subjects somehow. They told them that basically what we're going to be doing is studying your memorization. So they basically said we need you to memorize this string of like 12 digit number or something like that and walk from this room into like down the hall and then tell somebody else that number. But what they were really studying was in the process of that walk down the hallway to then tell somebody else, they would inadvertently make it seem like somebody bumps into them or something like that, and then ask them another question in that process of, or I think they would, sometimes it'd be asking questions, other time it was like just asking someone like, hey, so and so, is their birthday? Do you want a cookie or a cupcake or something? And I think like that kind of the conclusion of the study was when we're in the process of like trying to memorize something or like thinking really hard about something, all of our other like decisions just go to zero, and we basically just say yes to everything. And so like everybody accepted the cookies and cupcakes. When people asked questions that they weren't like hard questions, it was just like, "Hey, do you want to meet up later?" It was always just like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah."
It's got to be
I
something that they can check on like x-rays and stuff because isn't there like scans of people's brains like right before they die where they see like a lot of activity and then it slowly goes down and like certain parts of the brain actually are activated during death and stuff like that. So it probably has something to do, with the brain moving in certain directions at certain times.
Yeah, if you've watched my show before, basically, if you want to just fill me in on your career in comics or entertainment and as a whole,
Hmm.
and then as you go through your story, I'll then ask questions along the way.
All right. All right. So I would say I've been wanting to do comics probably since I was like in middle school. Um, I think like everybody my age, we all got bit in 1990 probably with comics. I remember specifically being at a grocery store and seeing the McFarlane Run Spider-Man #1 for sale for like $1.75 or whatever it is in the poly bag. And you couldn't open it. And I wasn't familiar with traditional Amazing Spider-Man comics at that point. And I just remember I wanted to look at it so bad, but it was in the poly bag. And I didn't have $2. I think I must have been like, I don't know, 11 or 12. I didn't have $2. And I remember I got the $2. I went back a week later and it was gone. But somehow comic book stores just started popping up all around that time. So me and my friends at the time, we would just go to comic book stores and, get all the stuff from the early 90s and stuff like that. And we gravitated towards the same things that I think everybody was gravitating towards. And I think everybody at that point wanted to be a penciler. And I really do think you have to have, talking about the brain, a certain type of brain chemistry to be able to do that properly. And I've never been able to do that. But then fast forward, I would say to maybe 2013. I decided I wanted to get back into comics and I wanted to pursue it professionally. And I wanted to do inking. And I was actually working under Scott Hanna, who's like a legendary Big Two inker. He was running some art classes up in Allentown where he lives. And I did that for a little while and I built a portfolio and I went to conventions and, you get your heart broken and stuff. But I think I just decided, I didn't like being hunched over a desk all day and it was super competitive, extremely competitive because everybody's there with their portfolios. So then fast forward to I would say maybe 3 years ago, I started. I don't know why I never thought of writing. I don't know why I never thought writing was even an option for me. Um, I just found out that I just loved writing and I just wanted to start making books and that was what I did. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm kind of good at this. I think I want to, pursue this professionally. So here we are.
Interesting. Started as an artist, inking
Yeah.
on your own, went to conventions as an inker. So whenever you go to a convention purely as an artist, what were you selling in a sense? If you didn't have comics, did you have comics that you did for other people, or were you just selling prints, or were you doing live drawings, or what were you doing?
I just had my portfolio, my 11 by 17s.
Oh, so you weren't like a presenter. You didn't have a booth. You were just going as
Yeah,
a spectator in a sense, but also showcasing your portfolio to other people.
yeah. Like I would go on Twitter and see when the Marvel editors would be at conventions and what particular conventions they'd be at. And I would just, get my portfolio and, make copies and, stuff like that and try to meet editors and talk to them about my stuff. And maybe talk to artists and get some feedback and stuff like that.
And,
And then,
did you get like totally shut down, or did you get some kind of like little nudges here and there?
I didn't get anything. Like I like I just got like, okay, thanks. The artists are always super encouraging. They're always kind of like I remember specifically Ryan Otley, probably back in 2014 being really nice at Baltimore Comic Con. And back then he had like a stack of Invincible pages for sale for next to nothing that I which I would have like picked up a bunch of. But yeah, it's just kind of stuff like that, trying to network and, trying to, see what the vibes are all about. Ultimately I figured I wasn't enjoying it. There was just something about just the solidarity of just being over the desk and drawing. And it's just hard. Inking is really hard. So anybody that's ever tried it, it's really difficult.
Oh yeah, yeah, I can imagine. And that's the thing is like I've heard interviews from I forget the Brazilian brothers that work with, that did Umbrella Academy, and they've done a bunch of books together, but they talk about how like they are just in their studio all the time, live at the studio basically. And and even as cool as they make it sound, I remember thinking like, dang, like I can't imagine just sort of sun up to sundown, all you're doing is drawing. And then
Yeah.
like you're doing it so much that you put a refrigerator like in between your desks and be like, I'm gonna eat at my desk and like and then we're all the way into the night and but whenever you're, I guess working at a really high level, or like they always talk about I say they, but the stories of the manga artists that commit suicide because it's just such a demanding and crippling job of just, you are just a slave to draw for this machine that always needs new pages. Yeah,
I mean,
so
yeah, the struggle is definitely real. I have nothing but so much respect for the illustrators, nothing but respect for those guys.
well, I do always compare it to where it's like with films, it's like the artist or the inker especially is like the director, the actor, the star, like they are the entire crew of like a film. They are bringing the vision to life. And us on the writing end, it's like all we had to do was just sort of put it in a linear format to where they somewhat understand it. And then they're actually sort of filling in on the gaps that we don't tell them. And they're doing the real legwork, not just physically as far as doing the art, but also sort of creatively. Like, even the notorious scripts from Alan Moore and stuff where it's just like one panel is a full page of script. It's like even with that, you're still having to the artist is still having to interpret what you say, and there's a lot
Yeah,
of wiggle room with that. Um, and so yeah, it's like they don't get the credit that they deserve, and um, I mean, they do probably amongst a lot of us in the industry that have been around a long time, but outside of comics, especially, I don't think anyone understands what actually goes into this and how much really and to be paid, these page rates that it's understandable how it's like it's unaffordable for the writer, or pretty much, but it has to be high for it to be worth it for the artist, especially if they're at a top level. So it's like it's slanted, but this is what it is. Comics are just like movies and anything else. You live and die by the hits, and just the grind of getting something made at any sort of professional level that you expect to get into comic shops on the same shelves as Spider-Man. You're gonna have to pay the price in both time and funding.
absolutely. Yeah. I
And
mean,
so yeah.
and you have to find the right artist too. Like you have to make sure, like that was something that I kind of took pride in was that I felt like the people that I hired were really good. Um, and I felt like they made the project better because I don't try to do those Alan Moore type scripts. I try to keep it kind of open for the artist. If it's a really important page or panel, I'll put a very specific like, hey, this is what I'm looking for type of thing. But yeah, I kind of don't like it when it comes back exactly the way I typed it out because it's just I don't know, I find it stifling, but I love when I get pages that are like, okay, that's it, but that's a little different, and it kind of makes the story different, and the dialogue will change. I think that's considered like the Marvel method that Stanley used to do with Jack Kirby. He would just kind of give them just like a brief little outline, and he'd get back these like amazing pages that would sort of dictate where the story should go. And I think that's comics. That is in my opinion, that's the way it should be. It's a full collaboration. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I try to basically, I spell it out panel by panel, and I might say, if I see a vision for a certain thing that says like this should be 9 panels, three, three, and three, or something like that, I'll specify it. But other than that, it's like this is all open to your interpretation. If you think it should be 4 panels instead of six, and that we should focus on, one big panel here, and and I try to limit, no more than two bubbles per panel so that they have the room to play around with everything, and that I'm not trying to go strict, telling you every single thing vision on the page, which is another thing for newbies that will reach out to me to where not knowing how to write a script for a comic, they think that that's what's necessary, that they're basically seeing everything panel by panel, the full page spreads of every single page the whole way through, and that they need to write out exactly what every single thing should be and the thought bubbles. And I'm like, yeah, if you see it in your head, if that's how it comes to you when you're writing the story, then yeah, spell that on the page in the script. But if you're trying to fit a script to fill in, if you're trying to fill in the gaps just because you think the script requires it, you don't need to do that. Like, you just need to tell them what is the most important points to tell a story. In fact, less is more. That's the whole point of this, is we're trying to tell a big story in a very small amount of space. It's like you don't need to say every little motion and every single aspect of how you see the pages flowing, unless that's the way it comes out. Yeah, like some
I
people
mean,
do just have the vision.
everybody has their style. Everybody's gonna, do it the way that they're comfortable with. I just prefer to be a little bit more open to what the artist is going to produce. And I mean, there's definitely going to be times where, and I know specifically there's times where it's just like, okay, this individual is, they're going to be walking in front of this person because it's supposed to show, like, you know what I mean? Like body language sometimes, and maybe facial expressions, need to be changed here and or there, but I'm always impressed when I get back stuff with minimal feedback where it's just kind of like, oh wow, they really went to town on this, so good. Because I don't want to stifle anybody. They're professional for a reason, so let them do their thing. Let them stretch out.
Certainly, yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I think my aspect of it is just for someone that's brand new, it's like don't try to mimic what you think is the requirements, since there really kind of are no specifics in the aspects of writing. There is if you're doing license work and they expect the script format in a certain way, but if you're trying to figure things out or write exactly how a building should look and it doesn't actually matter to the story, then don't worry about it. It's like if the building is what's in focus and the building's about to fall down, they need to know that. But if the building's in the background and it's not futuristic and it's just a house, you don't need to say the red house in the background with the chimney, stuff like that. I get a
Yeah.
lot of people that reach out to me for very minute, the very specific things on their specific project. And a lot of times I'm just kind of like, yeah, a lot of this stuff, man, doesn't actually matter in the long run. If it doesn't matter to your story or if you don't think it does, there's nobody on the other end, no artist that's going to go on the other end that's going to say, you're doing it wrong. They just need to know you have to know what's in your head. All your goal is or your job is to get what's in your head on paper and for them to understand it. That's really it.
Yeah.
As long as the
Yeah.
artist understands it, you don't need to worry about anything else until someone reaches out to you to hire you. And at that point, if they wanted to hire you, they don't care whether or not you know how to write a script or not to their format. They'll teach you if they think it's that important. You don't need to come to me or spend a bunch of research online, although I do encourage people to read and download scripts for sure. That's a
Yeah.
good
I
way to
mean,
learn.
and I think there's a lot of artists that have put out. I know Robert Kirkman has done like Walking Dead script issues where it's just like his scripts and stuff like that. And I've enjoyed looking at that stuff, and I like the way he would talk to the artists. He definitely has a sense of humor, but I think everybody is different, and I think that's when if you can get an artist that you definitely are, you communicate well and they kind of understand, where you're going with stuff. Like if you give them a reference like this is supposed to look like when at the end of Return of the Jedi, they went into the Death Star and you know what I mean? Like if you want to try to describe it like that and they can kind of vibe with you and go, "Oh yeah, I remember that part. Okay, that's expansive." And then, then you're good. But I found that if you give too much detail and too much direction, it becomes a nightmare because then it kind of clogs everything up and it just gets overworked and so yeah.
Oh man, yeah, and I know from their end, just like we've been on the receiving end, I'm sure is no one likes going back and forth telling somebody to redo something. Like especially I used to do graphic design with for clients, and they give you very detailed instructions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then they go, "Oh, you know what? Actually, kind of the whole thing doesn't look the way I thought it would be. Now do 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You do 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They're like, you know what? Go back to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then just change it to blue. And it's like it's the
No.
same with writer to artist. I mean, like it's one or two iterations of that, and you're ready to quit, regardless of how much they're paying you. So it's like
Yeah.
give
No,
them the
yeah.
leg room.
Yeah, you can't do that. And I've found too where it's just like, look, this is it. This is how it's going to be. This is what they're drawing. You know what I mean? Like this is the page. You're going to need to make it work. So, and I would imagine you mentioned a little bit earlier about editors. I haven't had the opportunity of working with an editor, but I would imagine, you know, being able to work with an editor and an artist probably is I don't know if it's difficult. I would maybe it's a little bit easier if I don't know if they have that kind of say, like, this page needs to be like this. I mean, maybe. Um, but I would imagine, whatever the editor says, if, from what I understand, that's your boss. So
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I've worked with multiple different kinds of editors, and it's just like film producers. There are different film producers for different roles. There's the line producers, the producers that are money people, the producers that find talent, and and then there's other ones that sort of are the creative ones. With editors in comics, there's someone that's sort of like a layout editor that is just trying to they're basically the graphic designer of the book. There's another one that's basically proofreading or sort of fixing mistakes or noticing continuity errors, or they might be if they're really in depth, they might be trying to find things that are I forget what they call it, but it's like, time, if you're something set in the 90s or a timepiece, they try to make sure that it's coordinates correctly historically, or if it takes place in a very specific location like San Francisco, they want to make sure the dialect or the cityscapes, whatever. And but then there's like the I'm your boss editor that will they will basically send scripts back or send pages back or try to have you rewrite or change endings and
yeah,
things like that. And that's where it's like, um, yeah, that's a whole nother scenario to where it's like
yeah.
they're
I think
editing, yeah, from a different
I
angle.
I don't know how I feel about that. I haven't had the opportunity to have that yet, but I know um, if I believe in something, I'm going to advocate for it for sure. If you can convince me otherwise, why your idea is better, because I'm the one that's going to have to write it and make it work. And if I don't really understand what you're asking for or why you're asking for it, it's probably not going to end up good. Um, but I think from what I'm hearing, and especially from the big two, that a lot of that is actually getting better. Um, from what I understand, from the things that I see, because I follow a lot of these guys, a lot of these artists on like Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that, and this platform, like interviewing and stuff like that, seems to be very popular right now, and I'm getting the understanding that they're trusting the creators a little bit more, and I think maybe that's why. Um, People say what you want about comics right now. I think comics are in a great place. And I think maybe that has a little bit to do with it, where they're finally just kind of trusting the creators to be like, okay, maybe we should let you guys do what we hired you to do. So
No, I think I have probably talked to at least a dozen, if not, 20 plus publishers just in the past month and a half. I have gotten the impression that what is happening sort of is like everyone is looking for talent. Everyone wants to find the thing that is worth their time to invest their money into, invest their time into, collaborate with, partner with. But everyone's super suspicious or hesitant about really jumping on anyone's ship. And
yeah,
so it's like everyone's looking, everyone, but there's like no risk. It's just, it's all like they kind of have parameters. But to your point, they are leaving it, they are like sort of wanting like, have a creator tell their vision. There's no one, it's like, no one's taking what they think is a great concept and then trying to package it together and produce it. It's like a lot of people are just trying to find what they think is the trending or cool thing or something they really like or want to put under their label. But if it doesn't reach their parameters or seem to be really good or interesting or unique or new, they aren't going to take the risk on it. So it's just like,
I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. And I see that too, especially with me, because, I'm cold emailing most of the time, and I've had some actual meetings, and I feel like I'm knocking on the door. I'm in the room maybe, um, But yeah, I totally get that. Why would we take a chance on this dude when, I mean, yeah, this is a good idea. This is a good script. This could even be a good book, but nobody knows this guy. And people know us, but they don't know him. Why would we put resources into this? So for me, it's almost like a chicken and egg kind of thing, where it's just like, well, then how do you break in? I would, it's just like look for the small publishers that are, at the same level as you. And I think that's a big problem with people like me is that they shoot for the stars with their books. They instantly want to reach out to like Image or like Boom Studios or IDW or like Marvel and DC. And it's just like, you know, it's kind of like dating out of your league sort of thing. It's like you got to build up to those guys. You got to build a reputation because yeah, they're not going to want to put a chance on some nobody guy in his book. It might even be awesome. The book could be like incredible and it could be a huge hit, but if there's no real track record and there's no real like we can bank on this person, then and if I was in their position, I would probably do the same thing unless I saw something that just completely blew my mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the thing is there are comics out there that blow people's minds. It's so and people see them and they see them break through the mold, and so publishers, just feel like, oh, they missed the boat on that one or whatever. Um, and so I guess point being is like since they know it's there, um, unless they see it, they sort of overlook you in a sense. It's like if they don't see it as like, wow, this one really pops. Like this, if it's, I'm trying to think of something that's like sort of just like objectively has come out to where everybody's just kind of like, yeah, that one deserved it and that one made it.
Scott Pilgrim. Scott Pilgrim is what I think of when I think of that. Like that came out of nowhere.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So yeah, if we go back
That was a different
quite a
time
few
too.
years, yeah.
Yeah, that was
I'm
like 20
trying
years
to think
ago.
even within like 5 years, as now, since
I can't think.
2021, people are acting like comics are just falling apart, and especially since 2023 and like the diamond stuff, 2024.
Well,
So now
I
people are even more like, and understandably, because I mean, a lot of these publishers are pivoting and struggling, but at the same time, other ones are booming.
I think, I bring up Scott Pilgrim because that was a different time. That was 20 years ago. And in my opinion, that's maybe because I'm just older, I don't know, but that was kind of when I started getting back into comics. We're talking 93 when I was in middle school, and then you're talking 10 years later, 2003, 2004. That's when all the cool stuff, in my opinion, was coming out. That was when you had Jeff Johns on Teen Titans. That was when you had Robert Kirkman doing Walking Dead and Invincible. Um, that was kind of, for me, that was when I started reading comics again. You had Y the Last Man. And so stuff like that, in my opinion, that's when comics were, I would say slept on, but were really good. Because I don't really remember like comics being huge at that time. It maybe it was, I don't know. But I just remember going to Wizard in like '03 and even thinking to myself, I wish I was still into this kind of stuff. And I was slowly getting back into it. And I would say, yeah, in the last maybe 5 or 10 years, you can't pick up. I think even now, if somebody like Kirkman were to try to break in now, he would have a bit of a harder time because if you look at Image now, um, and when it was back then, I think it was, I mean, it was still one of the original founders that was basically looking at all this stuff. Valentino was looking at all this stuff back then, and so he was an artist and a creator. Not saying that Eric Stevenson isn't, but I think they were able to take a chance on somebody that was kind of energetic and passionate, and they wanted to do some fun stuff. But yeah, nowadays, because money is so tight, inflation is so tight, and everything is digital, and it's just a completely different generation. They want the tried and true. They're like, but in my opinion, if you keep doing the tried and true and you keep chasing trends, that's when you get stale. That's when you get like, if you kind of look at it in like 80s music standpoint when everything got stale in the late 80s when everything was hair metal, and then all of a sudden grunge came and just completely destroyed all that stuff. It was because they broke the mold and they allowed it to happen. And in my opinion, comics right now is very much like the hair metal phase because it
Yeah.
is a lot of the same stuff. And I'm not knocking any of it. I think anybody that's putting out books and can do it, I completely am just humbled and just like you guys are killing it. Great job. But I can't help but just see a lot of the same type of stuff. And I would like to see different weird. I mean, look at the 80s, black and white boom and some of the books that came out around that time, like the Ninja Turtles, for example, obviously, that's a bananas book. You know what I mean? And for something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that to take off nowadays, I think if books like that were coming out, I think people would be all over it. But I think everybody's so afraid to kind of be creative. They want to just stay in that little bubble and I to me personally that's sort of what I'm finding to be a hurdle because I don't you know what I mean? Like I don't look at trends, I don't look at sales. I don't really care to be quite honest.
Hmm.
I don't care what's popular. I don't care what people are doing. I appreciate what they're doing, but I just want to do what I'm just making books that I want to read. You know what I mean? I'm just kind of making stuff that makes me happy. And if you happen to like it, great. If not, I'm sorry, But but that's what I'm trying to do. So yeah, so with me personally, I get some strange feedback, like, okay, like, this is interesting, Um, but I just believe in, what I'm doing so much is because I like it that I kind of don't really I take the feedback to heart, but I don't let it kind of crush me like it does
Hmm.
for some people, I would imagine, because I just like what I'm doing. And it's just kind of like, all right, well, I'm going to continue to keep doing what I'm doing until somebody pays me to do it the way that they want it done. And then, yeah, okay, if you're paying me to write Teen Titans, then great. Then I'll do it the way you want to do it, but it's still going to be my stuff. You know what I mean? It's still going to come out like me, but yeah,
No, yeah. I mean, what's cool about this, and especially like sort of the position I'm in, is like I have interviewed what you might call celebrities and legends of this space, A-list artists and writers, Jason Alexander,
from
Colin
Seinfeld,
Bunn just recently. And like all their story is the same. I've worked with David Mack, like, and what they do is just the same as every other creator. Like what you just have to do is a lot of people look at the moment now and then they act like, or even don't even act like, but you just sort of see it as, oh, someone sort of like blows up overnight, or they have like their hit and then they're golden. But when you talk to them and you realize what they were doing is just even Robert Kirkman, like it wasn't like he just went to Image with his first or second book. He had a handful of other books done either, I can't even remember if they were self-published or with small press publishers. One that was like something to do with Jesus and
Battle Pope. Yeah, he had
or something
wild
like that. Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Like he had a couple of them, and they were fleshed out full stories. And even though they might not have been, and point being is like David Mack with Kabuki, like that was black and white, but it was objectively exceptionally good. Or
Yeah.
like and then Jason Sean Alexander had um now I'm blinking on it. I have them all. They're like a cyberpunk story that also started off black and white with a small publisher, and like these are what they did to sort of break in, and then they grinded for a handful of years and did like what you're doing. They were still going to editors, and I've talked about this example of Kanye West where like he was signed with Jay-Z and was still like he himself was going to MTV and trying to make deals and doing stuff because you have to do that even if you think like, oh, I'm in, I got the publisher, I have the editor, my book's on the shelves. You still have to now be the one that goes and hustles it, and like you have to just keep going, and each thing you do you have to care about it like it's the coolest thing in the world. Try to make it hit, and if it doesn't, don't over dwell on it. Move on to the next. And
Yeah.
like eventually things catch on. I think like even Invincible was one that it didn't catch on right away. It was one that it took time for people to really grasp onto it before it became ongoing. Um, and yeah, but and then it's the same with us indie creators. It's kind of like we're just going to keep going, telling the stories we want to tell, doing them the best we can. But I think kind of my insight to it all was it doesn't have to be well, the things that become hits or that take off are not like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It wasn't a perfectly drawn, perfectly told story. It wasn't at crispy clean, a lot of money into it. It's like or Bone, all the things that take off or that become like hits. It doesn't mean they were objectively took the hardest work or like made to look at the professional grade. Like it's the story and the characters that take off.
Yeah.
It can be black and white. It can be cheap. It can be South Park style animation. Like there's something else that makes something. And I have a feeling that going forward in comics, it's going to be the same to where what takes off and what becomes phenomenon status to where it actually captures people's hearts and souls, it's not going to be because it's the picture perfect comic on the shelves. It's going to be because it was trending on some kind of social media
Yeah.
as, jokes or memes about it or whatever it is. Like there's something that makes it interesting or memorable. And that lifts all boats because just it'll bring people the highlight comics again, and that will keep the system running for the rest of us of just the machine of the Wednesday Warriors going to comic shops. But it'll be these weird breakout hits that remind people that comics are still relevant uh, in every space, not just our little art space.
That's what I'm waiting for. I mean, I would like to see that again, because it does seem like comics right now are very sterile, in my opinion. And I'm not trying to crap on the industry, but in my opinion, I'm finding it's just everything is kind of like it needs to be this, and it has to be formatted like this, and it has to be written like this. And it's like, says who? Who is telling, like who says that it has to be like that? Like you said, Ninja Turtles, like that book is e- even if it was just that one issue, it would have gone down as legendary because it was just so different. But they were taking familiar tropes from popular comics. They were doing the ninjas like, was popular at the time. So its DNA was familiar. And I think that's why people gravitated towards it because they looked at it. And even though it was weird, the DNA was there. You know what I mean? It's just those
Yeah.
two guys were just very creative in how they sort of meshed together and how they sort of taken their influences and put it out on paper. And it came out as this pure, unique creativity that only they could do. Only those two guys could have created that, right? And it just so happened to be incredible and people loved it. And they were able to publish it on a level to where they could get it out to local shops because that was still back in the days when you could do an ad in a comic magazine and that's how you could get your book out. Nowadays, it's like Diamond completely imploded and took out probably what like 100 publishers with it, and
Yeah, something like that.
tons of people lost money, and so it's like and now you got like Lunar and what Simon and Schuster, and they're very particular about who they bring in, and rightly so, as they should. Um, so it's hard for people like me and even you and the people that you interview, where it's just kind of like if you want to put something out, how do you get it out there? So like right now, what I do is like I just go to local shops. I live in Central Florida, so I live outside of like Tampa and Orlando and Clearwater and stuff like that. And I just bring my stuff to the shops. I get to know the owners, and they just put it on the shelves, and I can see, it's like, hey, did anybody buy this recently? And I'm not even trying to make money on it. Like my books, I sell my books for like $2. Even when I table, like the rare instances that I'll table, I sell stuff for like $2. Sometimes if somebody like really wants the book, I'll just like here you could just have this, like here you go. Um, So for me, it's like it's not really a and right now it's not really about money. I'm just trying to get people to be like, okay, yeah, there's that guy. That's the Destiny guy. That's the dude that does those weird books. You know what I mean? So just trying to make a name. So yeah, so but I totally get it from a publisher standpoint, you know. They don't want to kind of branch out and do that weird stuff that was going on in the 80s, and I just kind of wish that would come back.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Yeah, I feel like we've covered a lot of our opinions that are pretty much in agreement, and I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way. Especially there's most of the people, especially people that watch this channel, it's like they're not brand new to the space. They've been in this, or for a few years, and that's kind of the worst space to be in. To where it's like, if you're like brand new, all the rainbow on the other end, like you just see sparkles in your eyes, like, ah, there's all this stuff is possible, and it's like somewhat easy. And but then some of us that have been in this for a few years, it's like, dang, it was harder than I thought, and it keeps getting harder.
Hmm.
And everyone's around me is falling apart. The entire industry, especially the indie comics aspect of it, everybody's at each other's throats. It's a constant political and like creative battle of what actually matters. People will argue out over what manga actually is, or is it manga? Is it can an American write all anything that can be argued about, people in this space will argue about.
Yeah, that
But
seems to
it's
be the
like,
hot topic. Manga right now. See, not to interrupt you or anything, but
no,
I
you're
just
good.
wanted to. I just kind of wanted to, touch on that because that's an important subject. Like, so manga right now. Um, I feel like manga's been popular forever. I don't know why it's only now just getting a lot of attention.
Yeah,
I feel like
same.
I feel like manga's been popular, for decades. You know what I mean? So I don't know why all of a sudden now, maybe now, a lot of the market movers are looking at it and saying, okay, they're outselling us, so maybe we should just copy everything that they're doing. And I would say that sucks because then you start getting that stale, sterile. It's like, please don't ruin manga. It's like, so, and then not that they are. I don't think anybody is, and I don't see anything obligatory out there where they're just trying to make a buck or whatever. Um, but I just think it's like with manga, it's like that's a very specific thing for a reason. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
you can't just, ape that and then just kind of be like, okay, so the artist draws like this, so we should draw like this, and the stories are like this. And it's just like, no, you got to look at why are these guys writing these stories, first of all? Why are these stories the way that they are? Figure that out. Find out where their inspiration is coming from first. Find out where their heart is. And then if you can meet them there, then you can be authentic, in my opinion, to then produce that kind of thing. But if you're going to go in that direction, you're probably already into that stuff anyway. So it's probably just natural for you to sort of produce those books. But if you're just trying to copy it to make a buck, and like if you're this publisher where it's just like we need to just start finding more manga artists and we need to find more people that write like manga, then it's just like, okay, now you're just selling out. Now you're just trying to make a buck. And this is a creative industry. This is like a passion for most people. This isn't like shelf space at Target for like almond milk or something like that. This is
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like this is something where people are taking their time out of their busy schedules to find something that speaks to them, and they deserve to appreciate somebody's passion and art because that's kind of what art is. And it's like if you're just picking up something that some publisher or an editor produced because it's going to sell books, I quite frankly don't want anything to do with that because it's why am I reading this? Like this is just your crappy way of making a dollar. You're using comics and art to make a dollar and you're just copying things just to sell books. And I don't want anything to do with that. You know what I mean? I'd rather read books from a guy who is sitting in an office somewhere who literally gets a kick out of like when they get their pages, when they finally get their pages back from the artist and that like literally gets a kick out of it and just like, oh my God, that is so cool. You know what I mean? And produces things that they think is fun and cool that only they can do and other people can appreciate it. And I think I think DC is doing that a lot right now. I think DC Comics is doing that where they're trusting, and that was kind of what I was referencing before. Like I think they're doing a lot of that. Let's just sort of trust the guys we hired to see what they can do, and I think they've been banking on it big time. And it's nice to see. It's nice to see Superman being popular again. It's nice to see those legacy characters, nearly 100-year-old characters being popular again. I still think that those stories and those characters have a long way to go. And I like the fact that they're sort of, it seems like a lot of the stuff with those guys nowadays, it's not so much that you need to know the legacy material because there's just too much of it to, it's like Batman would never do that. And it's just kind of like, okay, um, so I think there is just a lot of like, it's almost become like Sherlock Holmes, basically, where you just kind of take a character, you drop them in something, and there you go. You don't have to worry about like the continuity, because I think in the 80s that was like a big thing, was like Thor would never do that because he lost his, you know what I mean? So, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think,
yeah.
and I think that makes a lot of people mad for some reason too. Because I definitely hear a lot of people getting mad about that kind of stuff. Like they're just throwing away the legacy, and it's like, come on. It's like, look what we're talking about, first of all. Like, look at what we're talking about. And then second of all, it's like, if you don't like it, don't read it. You go read it. Go read a book that you like. You know what I mean? You're not gonna like everything that they release. So it's just kind of like, but how dare you do that to Superman? It's just like, okay, all right. But I feel like they're doing a lot of that now, and I kind of like that that's becoming a trend, and I like that that's actually making them money, that they're seeing like, oh wow, like this doesn't have to be what we say and our, like, oh, we would never release a book like that. No, like they're literally asking the writers and they're asking the artists, like, what do you want? Like, what do you want? And when I hear stuff like that, I'm like, oh God, don't ask me. Like, if I ever got the opportunity, it's like, dude, you're gonna get like, you're gonna get the weirdest thing ever. Because I'm such a firm believer in that there's no bad characters, there's just bad writers. And it's like
Okay.
I don't remember where I heard that from. I know that's like a common thing that's kind of being thrown around anymore. But I totally believe in that. I totally believe in that. There are no bad characters. There are just bad writers. And it's just like, yeah, ask somebody like, what do you want to do? And it's like, well, I want to do a Jack of Hearts book. It's like, okay, let's see what that would look like. You know what I mean? And I think if these bigger companies can realize that, and I think they are getting into that from what I understand. That's where you're going to start seeing comics really start getting fun again. And I think that's where it's going. And I kind of am, really excited for that future of comics. But again, I still would like to see the little guy come up and do something completely bananas and off the wall and have it be a hit. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, that's what I like to see. And that's kind of what we all do, strive to do is like we want our own original character from our own heads to become the next thing that it becomes in the zeitgeist of the entire world or pop culture in general or just it really liked by anybody at all, any small audience to start off with, but the fact that it's our own thing for sure, as opposed to, yeah, I don't even know many people that are like, I got into this to write Spider-Man or to write Superman. I think even was listening to ah, dang it. I don't know if it was Philip Kennedy Johnson or one of the guys that's writing, one of the main characters, and they're like, this is, sort of peak career is writing Batman or writing Superman. And they're like, but you know, my true passion is still like telling my own stories,
Well, it just
my
should
own
be,
stuff.
as it should be.
Yeah.
I mean, you're an artist, you're a creator. Yeah, personally, I would love to work for one of the big two. I would love to have a staff job there for many different reasons. First of all, you get to work with fun people. You get to hang out and go. Like, I mean, look at, like you look at like, because back in the day, you really couldn't see behind the scenes. Nowadays, these guys promote their lives on the internet, and I think that's great. I don't think they're doing anything that's like bad. A lot of people, promote their political views and things like that, and I think if you're going to do that, you better. you better be responsible with it because if you have influence, just make sure that you're promoting a good message, regardless of what it is, whatever your political views are. But you see these guys and they're constantly tabling at conventions. They're communicating with peers, um, and they're living that artist lifestyle, and if you just looked at it for what it was, you're kind of like, okay, this is just some guy, working at a comic book company, and it's like it's really not. You're looking at an artist. You're looking at somebody that has passion in something, and they're surrounding themselves with other artists. And I think that's one of the main reasons why anybody would want to work for those companies. And then two, why wouldn't you want to write Spider-Man? You know what I mean? Like I would, like if somebody said to me like, "Hey, we'll give you a 12 issue run on Spider-Man. What do you got?" I'd be like, "Yes, let's do it." But I also think if you just focus on that, you're not, and if you're fine with that and that's all you want to do, then great, do whatever you want. And if they want to pay you to do it and they want to keep you around, more power to you, congratulations. But, I would hope that you would use your fan base at that point to to be able to put out your own books because that seems like, and I'm not saying that those bigger companies should ever be a stepping stone. Never. I think if you're going to work for them, you should respect their legacy because without the big two, I mean, I think the comic book industry would be kind of, I mean, it would still be great, but I just think without the big two, it would be extremely boring. Because it's always nice to see what they're doing. Um, but yeah, those it seems like those guys once they sort of get like the ball rolling, and they can say they've sold like, hey, I sold 100,000 copies of Flash #2, then you can kind of walk up to these, mid-tier or even higher tier creator-owned publishers and just be like, here's my idea in 2 seconds, and they're like, yeah, that sounds great. It seems like that's the level you have to get to kind of break down the wall and just be like to get your stuff out there. And so for people like me, it's it's either gonna happen or it's not. And it's like, and you can't wait. You can't wait. You have to be very aggressive with it. Um, so I would say kudos to anybody trying to break in that way. But it seems like a lot of the guys, because I have watched your channel, and a lot of guys you interview don't really seem interested in any of that. And I love that too. Like they seem very much completely happy just selling their own stuff, having their own publishing companies and putting out their own books. And I think that's fantastic too. I think that has its own, I think that has gotten bigger because it seemed like when I was growing up, especially like in middle school, when we were getting into comics, everybody wanted to draw Spider-Man. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah.
nobody really. I don't remember, especially as a kid, nobody really ever said like, "Oh, I want to put out something something." It was always
That reminds
like,
me, uh, I had a lecture at a high school recently where I was talking about not just comics, I was talking about breaking into entertainment, making movies, writing comics, becoming a novelist, becoming an artist full time. I This class was probably 50 kids. And I was like, who here uh has an aspiration to become an artist or a writer? And like no one raised their hands. I was
wow,
like, who here has any kind of desire to get into the film industry, either as a screenwriter or director? One kid raised their hand.
yeah,
And I was like, what? I was like, just kind of thrown off by the whole thing. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, no one here wants to be in any of the arts and entertainment. Like everybody here, truly, like your passion is in the sciences or engineering or something like that. And like everybody was like, yeah, and they were like, a lot of them were like sports. A lot of them were kind of things like that. But it just threw me off because I was like, whenever I was in high school, it was like, I mean, of course, you're in your own bubble, but it was like almost all of us sort of wanted to be filmmakers, artists, writers. Like that was like probably a good 40% of the school was
yeah,
like that was at least their passion. their parents maybe were told them to major in things or something like that, but they were still like sort of deep down were like, yeah, a lot of us wanted to be artists. And a musicians was huge. I was asking people like, yeah, some people were interested in sort of like music, but we're not intrigued by making that a career. Because I was like, my whole lecture is on making a career out of becoming in the performing arts or as an artist or like breaking into entertainment, and sort of the path to actually make that a business and how to get started young and to actually like break in. Rather than trying to do it in your 30s like I did. And it was just kind of so what you're saying about like, yeah, it is kind of crazy that it's the same thing that I've noticed, like you're saying, with people that I talk to. It's sort of split between people that are sort of all about comics or they got into comics because they really wanted to get into something else and comics were kind of a first step, like becoming a filmmaker or a screenwriter, or they adapted from doing some other kind of work. I had one guy that he was a watercolor and comics were actually a more profitable way of making money as an artist. Uh, and yeah, so it's actually a smaller percentage than you'd think that are kind of like the career is to work for the big two, or at least like even have that as any kind of aspiration at all. It's more like, no, it's like they want to just tell their comics, and yeah, ideally they'd be, with the big people, but they could just kickstart their books forever and they're happy. And like that's
Yeah.
like sort of like how to them that is the path. Like that's the end goal in a way, is just to self-sustain based upon their independently made and sold comics, and they almost don't even care if they go through comic shops or whatever. And like you said, that's cool too.
I think that's fantastic, and I don't want it to make me seem like a hypocrite too, because I'm saying like people need to do their own stuff. So yeah, do your own stuff. If you're totally happy doing Kickstarter and stuff like that, and do it. Great. I love that for you. Me personally, that's not my goal. Me personally is, I would like to break in. I'm trying to learn to be a good writer. I want to be able to be paid for my skills, and then still be able to make the kind of money to make my own books too, because as you know, it's not cheap to produce, 6 issues, and it's definitely a time commitment too. And so it's like if you're working a full-time job just to support your hobby and nobody's paying attention to it, at some point you're gonna kind of look at yourself and be like, why am I really doing this? If I'm the only one that's reading this stuff. But so yeah, I think it is important to be able to get your stuff out there. But for me personally, yeah, man, if I could work for one of the big two or even, a mid-tier company as a writer, yeah, then I could take that money, put it into my own creator-owned stuff and see what I can do with that. That's kind of the trajectory I want to go in. And I think what you're saying too, I think it's also a generational thing because, nowadays kids it seems like it seems like comics and stuff like that. I don't really see a lot of youngsters at comic book stores. I see people my age, and I think it's like I think comic books are sort of, like the vinyl of a generation, you know what I mean? And I think younger kids, they kind of look at comics as like, oh, cool, this like old school thing, and they enjoy it, but I don't think they're really realistically trying to pursue a career in the arts and stuff like that because I think they're also smart enough to know how extremely difficult it is. Whereas maybe maybe like an older generation didn't get to see behind the curtain with the internet so much. I mean, with some of the stuff that is on the internet today and the types of things that they're saying about celebrities and stuff like that, back in the day, it would have been like, what? Like, what are you talking about? So I think the internet has kind of opened it up as to where it's just like, this is very challenging if you want to be in the performing arts. If you want to be an artist and a creator, it's extremely challenging to get into that business. And I think people are shying away from that. And or they're just like, okay, well, if it's really that hard and that's what I have to do, maybe I'll just be a doctor. Maybe I'll just be a lawyer instead because that seems, you know what I mean?
No, that's I think exactly what was happening was they just understood that it like maybe they just how unrealistic of a thing it is. And I was also at a private school with I guess you could say rich kids. So like they probably had like parents that were very much like you're gonna get into this. Like they're probably a bit more narrow-minded in like kind of telling kids about like this is the realistic goal. You're going to go to college. You need to choose a major that's in one of these. If you want to be an artist in the future, you always can. And to their point, or like to, I'm speculating here. I think that that's kind of what it was. Is like it wasn't that they had no passion for it. It was just that they were viewing this as like I'm at school and I'm here to learn about this, and that they were sort of subconsciously under the impression that the arts weren't really a career path.
Well, the
Or
children
and
are our future. They are. That's a smart way to look at it. And I hear that and I'm just like, good for them. You know what I mean?
hey, yeah, I mean,
You know?
with my own kids, I encourage them to basically to learn the arts, learning piano, learn martial arts, get into sports, like do everything. Always practice like them both. Like you want to have a hand and a foot in like both paths. Like if you decide you want to go down the path of engineering and the sciences, go for it. And
Yeah.
obviously, I would encourage you to like keep that as one, always in the scope because the arts are something that are it's less necessary to spend money to get into it. Like you can learn these things for free.
Well,
But
what's the
not
old
to
term? Starving artist?
yeah, and that's the thing is yeah, it is a very difficult it's something you have to dedicate so much to. But I think science is the same way. Like they have to hustle for grants and things. Like
Hmm.
it's almost anything you get into is a grind, but there are some things that are yeah, anyway, I could talk about
Everything is a
the
grind.
general careers
Everything is a
forever.
grind.
I realized, but like there were some things that I read in your bio that we didn't cover at all, and we've like hitting an hour. But so you said you work under Scott Snyder now. What does that mean you're doing?
Saint Snyder. Basically he runs a Substack where I guess he just loves teaching. I don't think you can fake that kind of thing. And so he has, and for anybody that's interested, it's called Our Best Jacket on Substack, and it's a great resource for writers. For I think it's like $7 a month. I'm not like plugging his stuff. I'm just saying if you're into it. It's like $7 a month, and you get access to like 100 hours of just like lectures about writing, about specifically writing comic books. And if you like to go on long drives, you can listen to it. But I had subscribed to that for about almost a year, and I was listening to one of his lectures, and he had opened up one-on-ones, like where you can work with him, on a regular basis, and you know, I guess developed a script or learn about writing. I reached out to his assistant. They got back to me in like 20 minutes and said, "Yeah, I'll open it up for you real quick." They opened it up, and yeah, I meet with the guy once a month or every other month or so, and we're developing a script together that we're writing that was based off of like a really terrible screenplay I wrote, and it's fantastic, and you get like a really good insight on you know how to write, and he breaks down his fundamentals for you, and then he invites his students. He calls them the Black Jacket students, which are his one-on-one students, and he'll work with you as long as you want to work with him. Like it's not like a specific time frame. Like I even asked him, I said like how long do I got you for? And he's just like, dude, we're just going to keep doing this. And it's just like incredible. So we all got invited to New York Comic Con last year, showed up. He had this really nice breakfast spread on top of this really nice hotel in Times Square, and you just get to mingle. It was like him, Nick Dragato was there, a bunch of his students, a bunch of other writers, and you just kind of hang out and eat breakfast and just chill. And then after that, you go to New York Comic Con, and that's where I was able to network. I was able to make a contact at Mad Cave, which was really interesting. And it was cool. I don't like to, I mean, I'm not trying to name drop the guy, but it's like if you tell them like, oh, I was here because of this, it almost allows these guys to perk up a little bit because you're almost vetted. I wouldn't say it's like a name drop thing, but it's almost like, okay, well, if you're learning from this guy, you must be learning something. And so I was able to kind of make some contacts with editors at Mad Cave about the project that we're working on and some other projects that I had going on. And it's just something that he offers to people that want to learn. And I think it's fantastic. And I'm just like super thrilled to be able to do it.
That's really cool. I had no idea that was happening,
Yeah,
or that he's doing that. I'm definitely going to look into that. And I feel like anybody that is a writer that did not know this is happening should definitely look into that as well. I mean, there's
absolutely.
no other scenario where you get a one-on-one with one of the A-list writers of comics today, and he actually pays attention and cares about it.
It's
Um,
amazing. It really is. Like, and if it honestly, and I don't want to, I don't want to be too much of like, oh gosh, this guy's just, trying to, just talk this dude up so much. But it's like, no, it's really nice because prior to that, I'm just a guy in my apartment in Florida making comics, right? And it can get hard. You know that. It gets tough. And when you get rejection after rejection, or when you really get people that are just kind of like, I don't like what you're doing, it can really I don't want to say it hurts your feelings, but it kind of makes you wonder, like, you get imposter syndrome. You know what I mean? Like, should I even be doing this? Like, am I really meant to be doing this? But if you know you got a meeting coming up with somebody like that, and he says, like, this is really cool. I really like what you're doing here, but have you thought about this? And, you know, what are you going to do next? And, one of the first things he said to me in one of the meetings, that like the very first meeting we had, I gave him a 20-page script that I had written, called Ethan Hopeless and Beaten, which I just thought was really weird. And the first thing out of his mouth was, "You really write from a place of confidence." And I was just like, "Whoa." Like, thanks, dude. Like, appreciate that. And he's like, "So like what happens?" I was reading this and I'm just thinking, like, I'm just picturing this dude like sitting reading my script somewhere, and he's like, "And then what happens?" And then so I told him, I said, "Well, what should I work on next? Like, do you want to give me an assignment or something? Like, should I, like, not like, you know what I mean? Like, show me what you can do." He was like, "No, just keep showing me everything that you're working on. I want to see everything that you're doing." And then after a couple of meetings, he just flat out said, like, "This is all great, dude, but a lot of your stuff is basically in the pipeline. It's kind of done." And he goes, "Isn't there anything that we can just work on from the ground up together?" And I was just like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, dude, we could totally do that." And so we started with really from the fundamentals: outline, redoing the outline, doing the outline again, and then getting to, okay, start writing the script. And then it's just like, okay, well, what are you going to do? How are you going to finish this? And it's like, and I just learned from it, and I'm totally a better writer because of it.
and how do you become a part of this? I
Y-
know his Substack. I actually thought he must have a free version because I'm subscribed to one of them. I guess I could just never have clicked on to like pay to read more. But and then do you just sort of you reach out, or is it on his website as like an option, or was it only a temporary secret option at the time,
It
or
was like a temporary thing. So I remember
oh
specific,
my goodness, you know what? Now that you say this, I remember seeing something like that.
yeah,
Or like seeing that he must have called it something because I remember thinking like that's interesting. Dang, that's
yeah.
what sucks when I'm overloaded with I'm subscribed to so many things that they all just like blend together. I can't tell what breaks out that's actually
What's
relevant.
funny, what's funny about it is when I reached out, I think Absolute Batman was maybe on like issue 4 or 5. So, because he'd been out of DC for a while, and I remember seeing him at MegaCon, and he didn't have like a big long line. He didn't really have like a big booth, and I know he was promoting a lot of his creator-owned stuff, and so he came back to DC. He was doing that, and I was listening to a pre-recorded podcast because I was at work when he was doing it, and it said, like, he had said, like, I open this up every once in a while, every couple of years or so, but I have some spots for some, he calls it office hours. He's like, I got some one-on-ones, just reach out. And I instantly I was like, oh my God, because he was like, I'm closing it on Friday, and I looked at my watch and it was like Friday at 6. And I was just like, oh God, like, I'm not going to get into this. And then I sent the email. I was like, I really want to do this. And his assistant wrote back in like 15 minutes. He's like, I'll open it up real quick. So then he opened it up and then he closed it again. And then it was like, then they opened it up again. He's like, oh, he's still got some more spots. And, and some of you other guys, we can bump up your meetings a little bit closer too. This year he opened it up and it sold out in like an hour. It was just like
Yeah,
so
I feel
many.
like the more that people know about this, they're gonna hop on it.
Yeah, it's
Especially since, like you said, it just sort of immediate, aside from the learning from it, you do sort of immediately get credibility through association. And like, it's almost like just, it's more valuable than a college degree to where it's like, okay, so you know, not only just like how to make and write, but also you learn from somebody that has written hit after hit. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's like kind of a double whammy.
It is kind of yeah, because I hate name dropping and stuff like that. I just and I feel so bad too because it's just like oh, but no, it really is. It's kind of just like saying like yeah, I'm learning, because I don't know if there's really like I know there's Kubert School, but like comics isn't like show me your resume type of stuff. Show me like what your work experience is. I mean, it is, but you're handing them books and sales numbers. You're not showing them like a piece of paper resume. So if you could say like, oh yeah I'm working under this guy and he's vetting my scripts and stuff like that, and you have a name like him, of course you're going to get some you're these editors and publishers of course are going to perk up a little bit. I wouldn't say it's definitely a green light because it certainly isn't. Trust me, but it is definitely where they're like, okay, well, you must be learning something. You know what I mean? Because I'm sure that's
Yeah.
definitely something that they worry about, where it's just like, yeah, can you write though? Like, do you actually know the fundamentals? And I told him flat out in one of our earliest meetings, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was very honest about that. I was like, you're very much an architect at this, and I'm just kind of like writing, whatever comes out and making books. And he does not hold his punches either. Like I gave him like I showed him my finished book and I just finished it and you know I don't I hate even saying this because I don't want it to sound negative because it's not, but he didn't get it. But he wasn't the only one. Like a lot of people just really didn't understand what I was trying to do. And I was like, no, I'm trying to do like the movie Garden State, but with sci-fi. And he was just like, I I don't, I don't, this isn't my world. Like, let's start from scratch. And that was probably what we should have done in the beginning instead of me going like, this is, it's like, no, look, dude, I'm going to teach you how to do this stuff. So let's go from the ground up because I can't be very helpful if you're just still going to do your own stuff. So let's actually do this. So once I actually figured out how to communicate with the guy properly, and once I actually figured out like how to sort of handle myself in those situations, that's what I would give anybody who wants to do that. Check yourself, please, before you meet with somebody of that caliber. Please do not make the mistakes of being super weird and super like excited. Just sort of understand that he's there to help you. He's not there to like talk about how cool or maybe he is, I don't know, but it's like try to keep it very serious. You know what I mean? Like try to really respect what he's
It'd
trying
be
to
funny if he
do.
was just like, "Oh, that was cool. You want to hear what's I don't know."
Oh
Yeah,
my
like
God, those first couple of meetings with him was just like, I like this. And it's just like, that's great, dude. It's like, that's awesome. How can I help you? Because you want to
yeah,
tell these
he's not
guys.
there for you to be like, "I love this book you wrote. I love this." And how did you do
Yeah.
that? He's like, "No, I'm here for a
Yeah.
select amount of time to help you go from A to C."
Yeah.
Um,
I just kind of wanted to be like this. For me, it was a little bit of fanboying, but it was almost like too, where it was like, I want to show you like why I'm really doing this. You know what I mean? Because I feel like that might be helpful into maybe where my heart is going and where my mind is going and like but you know I would I would tell somebody to shy away from that and just really because that's not what he's there for. It's just like really learn what really take it as like this could potentially, if you want to look at it that way, this could be your mentor. This could be somebody that can really help you. Really just listen to what he says. Don't get offended because he's acting like a true editor for a big company. Don't get too passionate about what you're doing. Listen to what he has to say, take it to heart, and put it on the page. And you will see, like I've definitely been seeing like a lot of improvements in my writing for sure.
That's really cool that he's doing that, that you are doing that. Cause yeah, I always thought like, man, if I keep doing this and have like some kind of breakout success in the future, it's like I kind of still want to keep doing this. Like in the film world, there was a YouTuber known by Pony Smasher who one of his shorts went viral, and then got invited by James Wan to make a horror movie called Lights Out. And then that like sparked, now he's like an A-list director that's directed Until Dawn, the Annabelle movies, bunch of hits. And he still makes YouTube videos doing the same thing. He just upscaled, like, instead of just showing the behind the scenes of how he does these short films, he's now showing you behind the scenes of how he did these big budget Hollywood movies. And it's like that's really cool that he still stays like to the roots of like making YouTube videos. He did the Shazam movies, so you can still watch him being like, "Yeah, here's where I screwed up here, and here's
I
where I
love
didn't
that.
use like the red camera. I used my black magic, or I forget the names of the
I
cameras and
love
stuff.
that.
But it's really cool." And I was like, "I'm gonna be that guy if I have a breakout success with any of my comics or movies."
There's no
Um,
ego in it. There's no ego there, and that's what's beautiful about it. It's like I don't get the impression that he's trying to be, egotistical about it, because he doesn't have any reason to reach out to people like me, you know what I mean? Other than just like, no, dude, I want to help you out. Like, I see what you're doing and I appreciate it. It's like I think that's great. I think that's fantastic. And so any big creator that can open up and because we're all just people. You know what I mean? Like we're
mhm.
all just people who cannot have an ego about stuff and be like, you can't talk to me. It's like, no, you could totally talk to these people. Um, just be professional, like be in the room. You know what I mean? Like don't be that weird guy. That's what I would just say. It's like, because I definitely made that mistake because it's just
Just
like,
don't be
oh,
that guy.
yeah, I was
Oh, we're
definitely
all
that
that
guy.
guy.
I'm
That's the
I'm still
problem.
that guy. I'll always be that guy. I had to just accept I will always be that guy. Whatever.
Uh, to close out, fill me in on the story that you're currently writing. Isn't it like about a true haunted house or something like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, so I grew up in this house in upstate New York in the late 80s, early 90s, that always had really weird stuff going on. There was all kinds of weird things that would always happen in this house. And like my brother, he was older than me, he would always say like, you think your older brother's just messing with you, but then when your mom like starts saying things and you're just kind of like, that's really odd. So we lived in this property. It was sort of upstate New York, and there was I remember specifically in the backyard was like this brand new shed. It was like brand new, and I just thought that was a little weird. I was like, okay. Years later, we had a yard sale, just a regular yard sale, and somebody came up to us and said, it's really, really nice that somebody was able to buy this house. And my mom's like, obviously, like, what? What are you talking about? Well, you considering what happened. Well, what happened? Well, you don't know? It's like, no. It's like, yeah, the previous owner, he committed suicide in that shed in the backyard. It's like, what? Like, are you kidding me?
Oh,
And so yeah, so we moved out of that house. But it was off of like a cliff, basically. There was like a huge 3-mile quarry right behind the house. And I remember specifically going back there with friends to look at this thing, and it was definitely like it looked like Mordor. Like if you look at like a 3-mile hole in the ground, it's pretty massive. Like the dump
hmm.
trucks and stuff looked like little matchbox cars. And I just remember every day at noon, like the house would shake, and we had like a seismic meter in the house. And I remember even one day talking about Ninja Turtles. We came home like I was a kid, and I went to see Ninja Turtles, the movie, the first one that came out, and the cops were at the bottom of the hill, and my brother went down to find out what was going on, and there was like a dead body they found and stuff like that. So I was just like, I could probably put a lot of this stuff in a story, and so I wrote this really terrible screenplay based on that. Obviously made it something a little bit different, but I showed it to Saint Snyder, and he was just instantly, he was just like, I like this, dude. But he challenged me from the beginning. He was like, "Well, what do you know about horror?" And I was like, "Not a lot, dude. Like that's not really my thing." And he was, it was kind of funny. He gave me a list of movies to watch. He's like, "Watch this." And it's like, "Okay, cool. I'll watch these movies." And I watched it, and it's just kind of like, "Nah, that's not really what I'm looking for." So it's definitely a YA script. It's more or less coming of age, family drama, slice of life stuff with just a lot of really weird stuff going on in the background. I don't want to give away any of it because it does have like a twist ending, but um, he's helping me put those ideas together. He's helping me put it actually into a story that somebody might actually want to read and enjoy it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, well, we're over an hour. Is there anything you want to close on?
Thanks for having me, dude. Like I'm sorry that we went over.
Hey, no, no worries.
I did launch a Kickstarter. I have 6 backers right now. So so
Heck
that's really
yeah.
that's really it's like all these people that make all this money on Kickstarter. I'm just like, yeah, yeah, I love those 6 people. But yeah, so I have these are the books I sell locally. This is my anthology, Destiny Comics. It's I just try to do like one 20-page one-shot anthology and then an 8-page sort of serial based on this other story. This is kind of like my this is the graphic novel that I was working on for the last couple of years. And this is about 2 characters named Destiny and Nestor. And that's sort of the story where I was like, I want to take Zach Braff Garden State and turn it into like a sci-fi type of thing. Um, so I have my Kickstarter that I'm doing right now. I'll send you the link later,
Yeah,
maybe.
post that
Um,
on my ICDB discovery page. Like if you go to click get discovered, post it as a live project. You get free
yeah,
credits just being on ICDB.
cool.
And then it goes out to my whole email list, which
Yeah,
right now has like almost a couple hundred people that are active on it.
awesome. Yeah, I'm on your Discord too, which is fun too. And I
Nice.
love and I love everything that you're doing. Like you're genuinely trying to help this community. And I just want to say thank you for doing that. And I do watch your channel and I do like it. And I do like the people that you have on there. And I think you're doing a great job. So thank you.
Hey, thanks a lot, man.
You're
Praise to
you're
you.
you're
I
definitely
still get hate mail, dude. It's
from
weird. It's
who?
like
Why would they hate
I,
you? What are you doing?
I
You're just trying to
yeah,
help.
it just people will just I don't know what it is to where anytime you just because I have a pro tier on my ICDB, people just think like if you charge anything or if I just hype up my own stuff at all, it's like everything I do must mean a grift. It's just like it's not much, but it's enough to like be annoying to where it's like I can just be like having hunky dory doing all my channels, going through my routine, and then I get this new email that's just like, oh, okay. If you now I have to address this because I'm like a serious person or like have a thing out there, and it's like I can't just sort of ignore it. It's not just a comment section. It's the same thing where like if someone says like I want a refund for your stuff, it's like okay, fine. You can have a refund. Your $5 doesn't mean anything to me, but they want to turn it into a thing, you know?
I
So
think
that
that's
just it's nice
everybody.
to hear when people are like, "No, we know, we understand, we get what you're doing. We like what you're doing.
Well, you must be
We're
doing
we're
something
on your
right.
side."
If you must be doing something right if people are hating on you, right? You must
Yeah,
be doing
you're
something
right.
right.
If it's something, yeah, it's like I'm getting enough attention to where people are like aggravated by it.
Yeah, I don't have anybody hating on me yet because I don't think, yeah, because I'm so small in the scene. Like I said, I got 6 backers. I think when I do table, I get maybe 10, 15 people. So it's just like if I can get haters, which I hope to get one day, I would like to get to that. But I'm not the kind of guy that I would even engage with that because I think once you start engaging, because then it just becomes like customer service. You know what I mean? You get the angry customer and stuff like that, and it's just like, look, if you they first of all they want you to get to that level. They want to bring you down to that level. They want to see if they can get a rise out of you because that's how they can control you. They want to, I think it's about control. They want to control the narrative. They don't like your narrative that you're just going out there helping people and freely giving information and helping them because you've achieved, in my opinion, what a lot of creators want to achieve to be published, have, recognition, have sales and royalties and talk to editors and to know the business. And I think they get irritated with that because well, who is he? Who is he to just to speak for the community, to speak for comics, and I'm going to hate on him. And it's just like if you give them the time of day, I always listen to Einstein. What did he say? Like, stupid people revenge and smart people ignore. I want to get that tattooed on my arm because I just think that's brilliant. So yeah, you must be doing something right. I
No,
appreciate it.
I think you're right. That is a lot of it to where they're just like, what gives you the right to think your opinions matter enough to where it's like if you're gonna tell people something. But ironically, it's people that get mad are the people that they want to be a part of it. And then if I basically don't respond to their email or can't or like cancel a call or something like that, then all of a sudden it's like now I'm the bad guy. It's and then it's like they start off wanting to jump on the train, but the second that they don't like what I say, now all of a sudden it's like I'm the one who's going against them or something like that. And it's like, hey guys, like I have a life outside of this. Like I
No.
can't dedicate my time to you. I'm not Scott Snyder. Like,
I'm still amazed that he can do it. Yeah, I'm still amazed that he can do it.
that is super awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really cool.
I
Hey,
learned
let's
one.
do this again.
Yeah,
I
man.
am over on time, but
I was just gonna
this
say,
has been
always
awesome.
be friendly. Always be friendly in the industry. I think these guys would rather work with friendly people than jerks. And if you're a jerk in the
For
industry,
sure.
you're not gonna go anywhere. You're not gonna go anywhere. So these
That's my
people,
thing with all these people. I'm like, I'm a nobody in a sense, and you're treating me like this. Like, what makes you think anybody that you aspire to is going to give you the time of day?
right?
If I struggled with you, I'm a very overly lenient person and overly helpful. I'm not like anybody, like almost everybody else is just going to ignore you, I guess. Yeah, maybe that I should just
You
be
could be
like that, where it's
super
just like,
talented, and if you're a jerk, people are not gonna want to work with you.
no, yeah, it does not matter how talented you are. There, it's just not worth it.
Yeah, dude. Cool,
Ah,
man. Thanks for having me, dude. It's been a lot of fun.
yeah, for sure. If you have any the Kickstarter link, just send it to me in the email. I'll edit this probably over the weekend or next week, and then I'll probably have it go live in about 2 weeks.
Cool, man. And if anything comes up in my career and if it things start taking off the way I'd like it to, I'll reach out to you if you ever want to touch base again.
Oh yeah, for sure.